Cleopatra VII, the last pharaoh of Egypt, a woman whose name echoes through history, but not always for the reasons it should. For centuries, she's been painted as a temptress, a seductress, the woman who bewitched the most powerful men in Rome. But behind the myth is something far more dangerous to the patriarchy. A woman who ruled. A woman fluent in 9 languages. A woman who commanded armies, brokered deals with emperors, and refused to surrender her kingdom or herself without a fight. At the heart of her downfall lies a single, devastating event. The Battle of Actium, 31 BCE. A naval clash between Cleopatra and her ally, Mark Antony, against the rising Roman star, Octavian, the man who would become Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. History tells us Cleopatra lost, but what it often fails to say is what she was fighting for. It wasn't just her throne, but her autonomy, her legacy, and the right for a woman to hold power in a world built by men. This isn't only the story of a battle. It's the story of how a powerful woman was dismantled by an empire, and how, even in defeat, her shadow looms over every woman who's dared to lead since. Welcome to Mystery Extended, where history's hidden truths come to light. We don't just uncover ancient secrets, we reclaim forgotten voices, rewriting the stories that have been lost, buried, or distorted. Join us as we dig deeper into the mysteries that shaped the world and the women who changed it forever. We'll explore the full extent of Cleopatra's leadership and struggle for power beyond the myth, starting with 5. How Roman propaganda vilified her, reducing her to a mere seductress instead of recognizing her as a brilliant and strategic ruler. 4. The constant undermining of her authority, with men doubting her ability to lead a powerful nation and ignoring her diplomatic genius. 3. The political wisdom and strategic alliances she formed, proving her prowess in navigating a male-dominated world. 2. How her legacy was reduced to the sexualization of her body, stripping her of the agency and respect she deserved. 1. And finally, how her defeat at Actium wasn't just a loss of power, but an act of resistance in a world that sought to silence her. Let's begin. Cleopatra didn't inherit an empire. She fought for every inch of it. Born into the chaos of a crumbling Ptolemaic dynasty, she was just 18 when she ascended the throne beside her younger brother, whom she was forced to marry by law. What followed wasn't a fairy tale of royalty, it was a survival story. Palace intrigue, sibling betrayal, exile, and then a comeback. When most rulers would have vanished from history, Cleopatra returned. Not with vengeance, but with strategy. Her infamous meeting with Julius Caesar in 48 BCE is often reduced to a tale of seduction, a queen smuggled in a carpet, wrapped like a gift. But the truth is, Cleopatra came bearing something far more compelling: her intellect, her ambition, and her offer of alliance. She knew what Egypt needed, and she knew how to get it. Her relationship with Caesar wasn't a scandal. It was a calculation. A woman using the few tools patriarchy left at her disposal to secure her place on the throne, protect her people, and keep Rome at bay. And through it all, she ruled as a force. She minted coins with her face, spoke the native Egyptian tongue, the first in her dynasty ever to do so. She made science, trade, and the arts flourish in Alexandria. In a world designed to silence women, Cleopatra made herself impossible to ignore. And yet, to many Roman historians, she was still just the woman behind the man. But Cleopatra wasn't behind anyone. She was in command, which made her dangerous. As Cleopatra built her power in the East, Rome was in the middle of its own storm. The assassination of Julius Caesar in 44 BCE shattered the already fragile republic. A power vacuum emerged, and 3 men stepped in to fill it: Mark Antony, Marcus Lepidus, and a young, cunning politician named Gaius Octavius, Caesar's adopted son. History would remember him as Augustus. The alliance didn't last. Lepidus was pushed aside. That left Antony and Octavian, two titans circling one throne. Cleopatra, ever the strategist, aligned with Antony. This wasn't just love, it was leverage. Egypt's wealth and fleet strengthened Antony's hand. For Cleopatra, it was protection from Roman conquest and a chance to secure her son, Caesarion, as Caesar's rightful heir. But their union terrified Rome. To the Roman Senate, Cleopatra wasn't a queen, she was a threat. A foreign woman, a ruler in her own right, influencing Roman politics and commanding loyalty from one of its most powerful generals. Octavian knew how to twist the knife. He launched a propaganda war, portraying Cleopatra as a manipulative enchantress who had bewitched Antony and aimed to conquer Rome with Eastern decadence. She became the villain of his narrative, the dangerous woman who dared to play on a man's battlefield. But beneath the smear campaign was fear. Fear of a woman who defied every Roman ideal. Fear of a world where power wasn't only male. She was at war with an entire system that couldn't accept her authority, and that feared what might happen if she won. And so, the stage was set. The Mediterranean became a chessboard, and all roads led to Actium. The year was 31 BCE. Off the western coast of Greece, in the waters near Actium, two colossal forces collided. On one side, Octavian, backed by Rome's wealth, its propaganda machine, and a growing hunger for empire. On the other, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, commanding a fleet of nearly 500 ships and the hopes of an Eastern power bloc. But the battle was never just about military might. It was about legitimacy, about who would control the future of the ancient world. And for Cleopatra, it was personal. She wasn't fighting as someone's consort. She was fighting for her crown, her son's inheritance, and for the right to rule as a woman. The battle raged with tension and confusion. Octavian's forces, led by his brilliant general Agrippa, began to close in. The winds changed. Chaos took hold. Then came the most controversial moment, Cleopatra's sudden retreat. To Roman writers, it was betrayal, the queen fleeing in fear, dragging Antony behind her. But peel back the bias, and another possibility emerges. Cleopatra may have recognized the inevitable. The tide was turning. To survive, to preserve what was left of her power, she chose to retreat. It was a gamble, one she lost. But what if we viewed it differently? Not as cowardice, but as a calculated move in a war already lost. A woman forced into impossible choices by a world that never truly accepted her. The Battle of Actium didn't just sink ships, it shattered Cleopatra's last chance to shape history on her terms. But even in defeat, she refused to be conquered. After Actium, the dream crumbled. Cleopatra and Antony returned to Egypt, wounded, surrounded, and facing the tightening grip of Octavian's forces. With each passing day, their options dwindled. Roman troops advanced, allies vanished. Egypt, once the jewel of the ancient world, was now a kingdom under siege. Mark Antony died by his own sword. And Cleopatra? She chose her end on her own terms. History says she clasped an asp to her breast, letting the venom take her life. But the truth remains shrouded in mystery. Poison, dagger, or snake. What matters is the symbolism. Cleopatra died a queen. Unbroken. Unparaded through Roman streets like a trophy of war. Octavian wanted to erase her, and he almost did. He annexed Egypt, renamed Caesarion a threat, and ordered the boy's execution. With that, Rome consumed the last pharaoh, the last hope of Ptolemaic independence. But Cleopatra's story didn't vanish. It was rewritten, distorted through centuries of Roman propaganda. She became the femme fatale, the siren queen, the dangerous beauty who led great men to ruin. They told her story through the eyes of those who feared her, not as a sovereign, not as a strategist, but as a seductress. Yet even buried under lies, her power echoed. Today, historians and feminists are unearthing the woman behind the myth, restoring her as a fierce ruler, a skilled diplomat, and a symbol of feminine resistance. Cleopatra's legacy was never truly lost. It was waiting to be reclaimed. For centuries, Cleopatra's image was shaped not by history, but by the men who wrote it. To Shakespeare, she was the tragic temptress. To Roman chroniclers, she was the foreign threat who seduced their heroes. To Hollywood, she became eyeliner, opulence, and scandal, played by actresses who looked nothing like the North African queen she was. But beyond the myth and makeup, a new portrait is emerging. Today, Cleopatra is being reclaimed, not just as a queen, but as a feminist icon. Writers, historians, and artists are peeling away the layers of distortion to reveal a woman who ruled with strategy and vision. A woman who refused to be just someone's lover or pawn. She was a ruler, a mother, a tactician, and yes, a woman who embraced her femininity as part of her power. In books, films, and scholarship, we're seeing a shift. No longer is she a footnote to Caesar or Antony, she is the headline. Her story resonates with women across centuries, especially those who've had to fight for authority, speak louder to be heard, and prove again and again that ambition isn't a flaw. Cleopatra's life is a mirror, a reminder that women in power have always been contested, misrepresented, and yet fiercely persistent. She may have died 2,000 years ago, but her legacy? That's just beginning to rise from the ashes. The Battle of Actium ended Cleopatra's reign, but not her story. For centuries, her legacy was distorted, reduced to scandal, seduction, and defeat. But today, we see her clearly. A brilliant strategist, a powerful queen, and a woman who refused to be controlled. At Mystery Extended, we believe Cleopatra's legacy was never truly lost, only buried beneath the rubble of male-dominated history. And now we're digging it up, piece by piece, truth by truth,